Okay, here's example 1 for section on the sine law, 2.3. That's page 102. Okay, and so we have our triangle. Pudluck's family and his friend own cabins on the Kalit River in Nunavut. Pudluck and his friend wish to determine the distance from Pudluck's cabin to the store on the edge of town. They know that the distance between their cabins is 1.8 kilometers. Using a transit, they estimate the measures of the angles between their cabins and the communications tower near the store, as shown in the diagram. Determine the distance from Pudluck's cabin to the store to the nearest tenth of a kilometer. So they're saying the communications tower is near the store, so that's what we're looking for. So we're actually looking for this length, okay, the length between Pudluck's cabin and the communications tower, okay? So we can use the sine law if we know two angles and one of the sides opposite those angles, okay? Or if we have two sides and we have one of the angles opposite one of those sides. Okay, so a bit of an issue here is that we have the one known side, okay, and we don't know that angle yet, okay? Now that's fine because we know that the sum of the measures of the angle of a triangle is 180. So we're actually, we can calculate C pretty easily. We just have to take 180 minus the other two. Okay, minus the sum of the other two angles. Okay, so that's a 180 minus 149. Okay, so that missing angle is just a 31-degree angle. Okay, so that's good. We do have to know, the angle opposite our known side. Okay, so now we're looking at C. We know angle C. Okay, we know the length of side C. Okay, we know angle A. Or no, we know angle A, but we're not looking for side A, so we'll just ignore that. We know angle B, that's 88 degrees. And what we really want to find out is the distance B between Pudluck's cabin and the communications tower. Okay, so that's our unknown. All right, so you can see how we want to set this up. Remember, we can choose any two of those ratios in our sine law. Okay, that's right here. Okay, and we can set it up with the sides on top, or we can set it up with the angles on top. Okay, and so since we have a side as an unknown, we're going to use the form with the side on top, because I just like to not have my unknowns in the denominator. Not that it really matters, because you're probably going to cross multiply anyway. I like to do that just as a general kind of rule. Okay, so B over sine angle B is going to equal side C over sine angle C. Okay, so substitute those values in. B over sine 88 degrees equals 1.8 kilometers over sine 31. Okay, and so if you want to just multiply both sides by sine 88 before you put anything into your calculator, that's okay. 0.8 kilometers times sine 88 over sine 31. Okay, so when that's done, we're going to punch that all into our calculator. Okay, so we'll just go 1.8 times sine 88 divided by sine 31, and you should get about 3.49. Okay, what did it ask for? To the nearest tenth of a kilometer. Okay, so we're looking at about 3.5. Okay, just to make sure that we haven't made any errors or anything, let's just take a quick look up at our diagram and see if that makes sense. Okay, obviously you're going to try to make a good sketch so that you can check with your sketch. Now 88 degrees, that looks a little small, but it's pretty close to a 90-degree angle, right? So this looks like it could be a 60-degree angle, and this looks like it could be a 30-degree angle. So that makes that a pretty good diagram, okay? So now when you look at this value, 1.8, and we got an answer that's just a little less than half that, okay? So do you think that your diagram, your beautifully drawn diagram, shows that this is about half of this? I would say so. So that tells me that our answer makes sense, which is good because you want to catch things like maybe you have your calculator on radians instead of degrees or something like that. Maybe you made a mistake in calculation. So this really tells you that you have an answer that makes sense, okay? And so then you would say the distance from Pudlu's cabin to the store is approximately 3.5 kilometers. And so yeah, those are nice, especially when you're looking for an unknown side and you have the angles. The sign law works really well for finding unknown sides.